You can't stop sneezing. The skin on your nose is raw from blowing it so much. Your head aches and your lungs are sore from coughing up phlegm. You have a common cold. Even worse, you've run out of medication and you wouldn't mind some more soup either. So you drag yourself out of bed for a quick trip to the supermarket. Don't do it. It's a bad idea to drive when you're in the throes of a cold. The common cold is an infection of the upper respiratory tract, which includes the sinuses, nasal passages, pharynx, and larynx. The infection is caused by one or more of over 250 possible virus strains. Rhinovirus is the most common strain, accounting for upwards of 60% of colds. Within the 3 species of rhinovirus, there are 99 identified serotypes, with a suspected 50 or more not yet known. That explains why it's hard to make a vaccine for the common cold. There are often 20 to 30 different types of rhinoviruses, plus other strains circulating each season in one geographic area, as opposed to the 3 or so predominant strains of the flu. Furthermore, only about 10% of any season's prevalent rhinovirus agents will show up again next year. Currently, researchers haven't figured out how to predict the spectrum of common cold viruses most likely to dominate in any given year. Even if researchers knew the types of viruses likely to prevail, it would be hard to create a vaccine that can protect against the majority of cold viruses, which is also cost-effective and could be delivered in a single inoculation. However, researchers are advancing in this field, so they have created a prototype vaccine for about 50 types of rhinovirus, which luckily tend not to mutate. The common cold is highly contagious, with infection agents being spread to the nose and mouth through contact with infected people or items infected people have recently handled. Yeah, if you caught a cold from someone, you most likely inhaled or ingested airborne virus particles from them. A sneeze sends between 5,000 to 20,000 droplets of mucus into the air at speeds of 10 to 20 miles per hour. These droplets can travel up to nearly 30 feet and remain suspended in the air for up to 10 minutes, creating a biohazardous cloud for unlucky people nearby. Most adults have an average of 2 or 3 colds a year, while children are walking infection monsters with an average of 6 to 8 colds annually. You can help prevent the spread of cold viruses by staying home when you're sick and wearing a face mask if you must go out. Also, frequent hand washing, especially washing your hands after sneezing or coughing, sneezing away from people into your upper shirt sleeve, completely covering your nose and mouth while doing so, and disinfecting frequently touched surfaces such as doorknobs help prevent colds. The onset of a cold is rapid. Victims generally begin to develop symptoms within 48 hours of exposure to the virus. Symptoms are wide-ranging from runny noses to coughing and sore throats. The common cold and the flu share similar symptoms, although flu symptoms tend to be more severe. Interestingly, the majority of the discomfort and symptoms experienced while having a cold are actually caused by the white blood cells in your body fighting off the cold rather than the nasty virus itself. Most colds last from 7 to 10 days, although for some people symptoms can persist for about 3 weeks. It's pretty rare to die outright from the common cold. Often people die from another condition brought on by the common cold, such as pneumonia or bronchitis. The very young, elderly, and people with weak immune systems or underlying respiratory illnesses are particularly susceptible to serious illness or even fatality via a cold. The traditional cure of drinking plenty of fluids, especially water, or perhaps tea and broth in addition to getting abundant rest, is the best course of action to take. Taking over-the-counter medication can also ease your symptoms and set you on the road to recovery. A trip to the doctor generally isn't warranted for a cold unless you develop a high fever, have severe trouble breathing, or your cold persists for longer than 10 days. Now that you know the basics of how the common cold happens, let's discuss why you shouldn't drive while having a cold. It's quite simple. Driving while sick can be akin to drunk driving. Cold sufferers are often fatigued, lightheaded, dizzy, or have a headache, which makes driving difficult and dangerous. A British insurance company installed telematic or black boxes onto cars and had cold sufferers complete driving tests. Telematic boxes, which are about the size of a matchbox, measure different aspects of vehicle data such as acceleration, braking, speed, and lateral g-forces to determine how safe a particular driver is. The insurance company found that sick drivers, particularly those with cold symptoms, experienced a 50% decrease in concentration, including impaired alertness and lagging reaction times. That same data study found that participants who rated an excellent driving score of 95% when healthy dropped to a dismal 60% when suffering from a cold. In addition to attentiveness problems, sudden braking occurred much more often, and cornering became poor and erratic. Other studies have found the common cold impairs cognitive functions. In 2013, a study at Cardiff University in South Wales had 189 participants complete a series of baseline cognitive tests. Over the next 3 months, 60-some of the participants returned to the lab for another round of tests after they developed a cold, while the remaining healthy participants served as the control group. The cold sufferers reported feeling less alert and struggling with negative moods and sluggish thinking. From the first to the second set of tests, they had slower reaction times and were slower to process and learn new information. They also fared worse at completing tasks involving verbal reasoning and semantic processing. The same researchers also conducted a study of 15 participants with colds and 10 healthy participants who completed a simulated driving task. The cold sufferers had a slower response time to unexpected events on the road and were less likely to detect collisions. Yes, both of these studies are small. However, the data backs up other reports and studies. Driving while sick is dangerous. Generally speaking, the average perception time for an alert driver is 1 3/4 seconds. Traveling at 55 miles per hour, this accounts for 142 feet traveled. In ideal conditions, the average driver has a reaction time of 3/4 second to 1 second, or at 55 miles per hour for 61 feet traveled. At 55 miles per hour on dry pavement with good brakes, braking distance is about 216 feet. For a minorly impaired sick driver, let's say it takes them about 500 milliseconds or half of an extra second to respond. By that time, their car has traveled another 30-some feet. That could mean life or death for a pedestrian. In the same vein, physical symptoms such as sneezing also cause a problem. When we sneeze, we reflexively close our eyes for at least 600 milliseconds, just shy over half a second. A sneezing fit may cause a person to toss their head and close their eyes multiple times in a 10-second period. By that time, the car has traveled hundreds of feet. Other physical symptoms such as light sensitivity, runny eyes, or swollen eyes, blurred vision, or ringing in the ears may make it hard to drive. If a driver's cognitive abilities or alertness isn't affected by the cold itself, medication taken to combat cold symptoms may make a driver drowsy or sluggish. The Do Not Operate Heavy Machinery warning is on the back of many cold medications for a reason. Common ingredients including painkillers and anti-inflammatory drugs can temporarily turn you into a zombie. In many countries, including the US, Canada, and the UK, you can receive a DUI for driving while impaired by legal medication. Exacerbating this problem is that many people, for a variety of reasons, choose to go to work when sick. In fact, polls have found that 9 out of 10 US workers go to work when sick. North Americans catch 1 billion colds each year, and a significant number of these people drive themselves to work. To add fuel to the fire, the majority of colds tend to happen during the winter season. When it's cold outside, we often spend more time inside with doors and windows closed, hence less ventilation and in close proximity to other people who may be infected. Meanwhile, our immune system may not be running at full power. Winter has shorter, often overcast days and longer nights, which means we're exposed to less sunlight, and thus, we're not able to produce as much natural vitamin D, which helps power the immune system. Consequently, we're more vulnerable to infection. Also, cold viruses last longer and transmit faster in the cold. Cold air carries less water vapor than hot air, making it drier. So when you cough and sneeze, the mist of particles from your mouth and nose remain in the air for longer, making it more likely for us to catch a cold virus. Meanwhile, wintry conditions can severely affect roads. More accidents tend to happen in winter due to weather conditions and shorter daylight hours. In addition to the multitude of the usual driving hazards, millions of cold-impaired drivers battling winter driving conditions sounds like a perfect storm to us. But you were just going to run to the supermarket a few miles away. Well, that's a trip in the danger zone. Statistics have shown that in the US, approximately 52% of collisions occur within a 5-mile radius of home, and 69% happen within 10 miles. Obviously, most driving occurs close to home. However, the repetition-based comfort and relaxation we feel driving through our familiar neighborhood likely plays a role. By now, you might be shaking your head over how alarmist we are over this issue. You've seen crazy, distracted drivers texting, putting on makeup, reading, or doing any number of things they shouldn't be doing while driving a car. You wouldn't do any of those things. In fact, you're going to be hyper-vigilant when you drive since you know you might be impaired by your cold. Well, this is not about comparing one person's poor driving behavior to another's. When we're driving a vehicle, we're moving over 2,000 pounds of metal. For the good of everyone, it behooves us to be as safe as we can be. So, if you have a cold and you must go somewhere, ask someone to take you, or use a taxi or rideshare service, or take public transportation. But as much as possible, we suggest staying home. Curl up in bed with some tea and watch videos on your favorite YouTube channel. Hint, hint. What's your best cold remedy? Let us know in the comments. Also, be sure to check out our other video, Diseases That Will Kill You the Quickest. Thanks for watching, and as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. See you next time.